whatever was present and ultimately turning them into very dark systems. And this has happened throughout our history. And it happened in Lemuria and Atlantis and other civilizations. And they've been very active all the way through up to the Second World War, where they were behind the whole outburst of negativity that came through the Axis powers in the war. But they were defeated at that time. In terms of all their human cooperators were eliminated or jailed, but they were only driven off of the physical plane onto the astral plane, and they were sealed up, what's called sealing behind the door where evil dwells. And it was our task to prevent them from coming back out into our human world by not engaging in the kinds of practices and attitudes and energies of the dark greed and selfishness and all the rest. We were not successful at keeping that door closed. And so they did reemerge and continued and developed even further the systems of control, a lot of it through the banking system and through the control of politicians and all the rest, which we all know is very present today. However, this is the culminating point in all this was 9/11. 9/11 was a staged attempt to create an event that would create so much fear that they could install all these limitations on our democratic rights and freedoms, which they did through the Patriot Act, and then they wanted to invade the Middle East to get control of the oil in the Middle East. And that didn't turn out so well either. But the most important part of that was that as a result of 9/11, there was a huge unintended consequence. And that consequence was that because our Earth is a chakra in the body, a center within the body of the living being we know as the solar system, every planet is a chakra in the body of the solar system. And our solar system has been ready for quite some time to move on to a higher level of evolution, to move to a higher energy level, higher frequency, higher state of being. But because the Earth is one of its chakras and the condition of the Earth was under this dark control, our solar system could not progress. With the advent of 9/11, it became very clear to the solar being and to what's known as the Solar Council that this situation was going to prevent their forward evolution for a very long time. So there was a decision made at a solar level that the dark cabal originators were going to be taken off the planet or turned to the light. And
now, were these cabal leaders humans or extraterrestrials?
There's different levels of it, but the ones I'm talking about right now are the extraterrestrials.
All right.
The ones that came from outside. There were only 50 of them, the originators. But they developed a huge following, of course, of human beings. There was interbreeding with human beings also. But the originators, who were really the whole power and energy behind it, at that point, the decision was made that they would be removed. And the Solar Council gave permission to the galactic civilizations to remove them or turn them to the light. This was in 2002. And that process has been underway ever since, and they are now completely gone from this planet. There are no more extraterrestrial dark entities interfering with our evolution.
Well, that's a good thing. So when you said the forces of light seem to be getting brighter, basically, it's because of that, the eradication of those darker forces?
That's one of the results of what's happened, yes. But there are many other things. What's happening is, in addition to giving the galactic civilizations permission to remove the darker aliens, they also were given permission to increase the amount of light radiation to the Earth. And that has been going on steadily since 2002. And so we now have this uprising and awakening of consciousness and energy going on worldwide. You can see it, of course, everywhere. And it doesn't always turn out to the ideal result, but you can certainly see that the awakening is going on. Something is stimulating this tremendous uprising of consciousness on the planet. And their goal is to help us and support us to free ourselves of all of this control, all these control systems. The systems are still there, because the human beings who are working with them are still trying to maintain those systems and keep the whole game going because, of course, they're benefiting tremendously from it. But it's getting more and more difficult because of all the pressure that they're under. The Cabal is under pressure from the investigations and the exposing of many of their activities that have been hidden until now. They are under pressure from their own internal infighting because now that they don't have that kind of higher order leadership, many of them are, trying to run away. They're fighting with each other. They're killing each other. There's a whole lot of stuff going on around that, and they are being indicted. And many of them are being killed or committing suicide in some cases.
Jeez.
And this is all part of the tremendous pressure, and they're primarily under pressure from the breakdown of the financial system, which is their primary control mechanism, which has been for quite a long time now. That's how they've controlled.
And Gordon, when you were talking about this solar group, is it a spiritual group where they're in another dimension, or are we talking about something physical?
I'm talking really about a spiritual dimension, but it has a physical manifestation, of course, which is our solar system.
Sure.
But like everything else, it's a living being, the solar system. And it has a solar council, which is like the guiding council for all the decisions about how this being is going to evolve and unfold. And our Earth is a part of that system. It can't be anything else. And so when things happen on Earth that are directly causing retardation of their evolution, then there has to be some kind of change made, and that's what has happened. And that's the fundamental, most important good news. And the other very important piece is we are not in this struggle to free ourselves from the Cabal alone. We do have tremendous help from what is known as the Galactic Light Alliance. And they have been working very closely with many leaders on this planet directly and have developed a very clear plan on how we're going to make this transition from the current system we have, which is rapidly breaking down, into a whole new system that really reflects the kind of world we all really long for in our hearts.
That's a good thing, and it's probably long overdue, isn't it?
Yes, it certainly is. And it's something that, we as humanity, so many people have told me when I talk about this and give details and information about it, how much it gives them hope, because they didn't have any hope.
No.
The sense was that, we're the way things go, if you extrapolate from the present, people don't see anything but disaster. And that's not really the case. We do have tremendous amount of other beings who are helping and supporting us, and I can give you very detailed examples of that.
Please, yeah.
So people don't think I'm just making this all up.
Yeah, no. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, what happened was, as I'm sure you're aware of, there's been a tremendous amount of interference with the leadership in this world, the elected leaders, political leaders, financial leaders, and in cases that the Cabal basically uses brutal and ruthless tactics to enforce their control, including, of course, assassination and many other things. And the leaders of the world know about all this, and they have known about it for a long time, and they didn't quite know really what to do about it. But what happened was, once the Galactics were given permission to have more active engagement with humanity, they came into contact with many of the world leaders, either through direct meetings or through internal, sort of impressions. People get ideas, they get suggestions, thoughts come to them in that way. So they begin to be aware that there is some higher possibility here. And the leaders have been gathered together several times and shown a lot of the plans of the Cabal, which included, of course, trying to start a nuclear war between Israel and Iran, between the United States and Russia, on all that sort of that level. They've also tried to instigate massive epidemics. If you remember the SARS virus, with this tremendous...
Ay, ¿qué pasó? ¿Se fue la señal?
Completely. And that's why it just went nowhere. And of course, they're doing the same with the radiation from Fukushima, because if there was not some kind of intervention there, the Pacific Ocean would be a radioactive sink at this point. But
do you think, Gordon, if two nations were going to launch nukes against each other, that, and we've heard rumors that, you know, missile silos have been shut down and everything else.
That's correct.
And we've got great witnesses, military folks. Do you think they'd step in? They would step in and shut these down?
Absolutely. The part of the what they call the solar decree that happened in 2002 was there will be no nuclear exchanges or war whatsoever on this planet. That's done. It's not going to happen. It will not be allowed. And they certainly have the power to do that. As I'm sure the people you've interviewed on your show have verified that and even some of the rockets that have been gone up recently, you see that sometimes they don't work and they just mysteriously disintegrate. And I don't know why exactly, what was maybe on those rockets or what the plans were behind them, but they have the capacity to definitely control that nuclear possibility. The other thing is that was part of the cabal's plan was that they wanted to try to start this nuclear war in many different ways that they went about doing that. And the plan was they wanted to reduce the population of the Earth by about 80%. And the way they were going to do this was they had these underground cities set up all around the world, as you probably know, and some of them were, had a lot of people in them, 160, 170, 80,000 people in these cities. And they were going to hide in those cities when the nuclear exchange took place, and then after a year or two come out, and then they would be ruling a small terrorized population, and they would be the masters of the planet. Well, this was a very crucial, major part of their plan. What happened was that the Galactics actually opened up a portal in these underground cities, and they pulled everything and everyone in those cities into another dimension. They weren't killed or harmed, but they were moved. And there are actually videos now showing the inside of these underground cities as completely empty.
Huh.
And they were filled with, enough for people to go and live there for years, and all kinds of laboratories and activities, all sorts of things going on there. And the evidence for this is very interesting. One of the cities was located in Virginia, and one was outside of Denver. And the day that they actually did this, if you recall, there was an earthquake in Virginia that actually cracked the Washington Monument.
Right, a very rare earthquake.
Extremely rare. There are never any earthquakes out there in Virginia. And a day or two later, there was an earthquake outside of Denver. Those were the two of the locations where they had these major underground cities. And by that activity, they actually closed them down. They're completely gone. And that, in terms of the plan for which they were intended, which actually indicates that, and at that point, the Cabal knew that they were in big trouble.
Hold on, Gordon. We're going to come back and chat more with you about this incredible story right here on Coast to Coast.